So you might be saying, I think I know VLANs. Show me. Okay, we can do that. Let's configure VLANs on a single switch and test it to make sure that the VLANs are functioning. So as we get into this configuration, I'm going to do it in two phases. Let me take you back to the network diagram. We've got Arizona, Nevada, and Florida. And where we're at right now, and when I say we're, I'm talking you and I, us, we're kind of at the beginning of your VLAN education, right? So I want to keep it simple in the sense that I just want to focus on deploying VLANs on a single switch at first. And we'll by the time it's done, we'll set up, the single switch for the VLANs. We'll set up the router on a stick on these guys so that we can route between them. And in the next skill, that's where we're going to get into this world where we'll set up multi-layer switching to where we've got these guys, not only the VLANs deployed here, but we'll actually have the VLANs trunking between the switches. And the switches will be the router, and this will be it'll be grand and fantastic. But I don't want to do all of that at the beginning. So here's how I'm going to play this out. And by the way, I didn't intend to do this. At the very beginning when I was designing this, I was like, oh, well, we've only got 5 users in Florida and Nevada, so we don't really need that many VLANs there. But then I got to VLANs, and I'm like, but it would be cool. So let's do that. What I want to do is I want to deploy VLANs in Nevada and Florida. So you can see the objective. So I literally designed this just like a lab would be, right? So I want to create and name VLANs 10, 20, 30, and 40 in Nevada and Florida. And we're going to follow the same template that we created when we went through the IP subnetting and in the skill that focused on that, divided all these up, right? So over here we've got Arizona, which really defined the template. We've got 10.16.0.0. So let's come over here. We'll follow the same thing. The VLAN 10 is going to be the server VLAN, and this is in both Nevada and Florida, server and static devices management. So in Nevada, that will be 10.16.8.0/24. So we're going to remove it from VLAN 1, and we're going to add it to VLAN 10. So VLAN 20 in Nevada, well, it's over at Arizona. We skipped a subnet. Why? So we could expand. So we could have a VLAN 11 if we wanted to. So same thing here. We'll go 10.16.10.0/24, right? So that's VLAN 20. That's our voice over IP network. VLAN 30 then started at 10.16.4, 10.16.4.0. Oh, whoop. My bad. I just started copying things over. So over here, it would be 10.16.12.0/23. Because 30 was the client VLAN, right? We had 500 some clients over in Arizona, and we don't have that many clients in Nevada, but if our business does well, of course we should. So let me just put some labels right here, right? Static devices, voice over IP, client devices. So we left, again, ourselves a single room for expansion right there. So we could have, VLAN 21, if we will. That took us up to 11, right? If we wanted to do that. But then down below that, below the client VLAN, we have VLAN 40. That was our BYOD, or our public VLAN. That we also needed 500 IP addresses for as well. So over here, it'll be 10.16.14.0/23 again, which gives us, so this one goes through 13.255. This one goes through 15.255, right? And then that just starts over right here when we get to Florida. And then Florida, we will follow the same thing, except instead of 8, it'll be 16, 18, 20, 22, right? So same schematic. And I trust that you guys are following that so that when we deploy Florida, it'll make sense. So the first thing that we need to do is create and name those VLANs in Nevada and Florida. Let's go do that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm sitting over here in Nevada. Notice the switch that we have set up here. The router is connected to port number 1. I've got this cable right here, which actually goes back to my computer, the one that I'm talking to you on. What I'm planning to do is bring a laptop. I'm going to clear off some dinosaurs, put it right here, and connect the laptop in so we can do some testing with it. The Florida side of things, I'm going to keep until... I'm just going to do that offline because I figure it's going to be exactly the same configuration. So if I show you in Nevada, Florida will be a piece of cake. So I've got my console cable connected. Let me get logged into Nevada. There we are. Oh, wait. Oh, I plugged into the router. That's not where I want to be. I want to be on the switch, which has a console port on the back right there. Come back over here. I'm now on switch number 1. I'm going to get into privilege mode. And the first thing I want to do when I type it right is type in the command show VLAN. This is something you will use quite a bit. Oh, looks like I left a VLAN on there from testing to verify what ports are in what VLANs. And take a look at this. We've got Nevada switch 1. That's where we're at. VLAN 1, which is the default. And by the way, you can't change that name. You can't modify it. It is there. It is the default. And all the ports are a member of it. Now, it looks like I have this VLAN 4 here. I must have done that in testing and just forgot to remove it. But these other ones, I should mention that. These other ones, FDDI, default, token ring, I mean, that should start ringing bells of like, that's old. And it is. And you can see these are quote unquote active, but unsupported on this platform. That's just to be standards compliant. The VLAN standard is written that you need to have those VLANs. You will never, ever use those. Now, switches can support, if they are modern switches, they can support up to 4,094 VLAN numbers. Some switches, the smaller switches, won't let you go that high, but most of them, if you're using a name brand switch, you should be able to create from VLAN 1 to VLAN 4004. But how many active VLANs it can have, that can vary based on what model of switch you have. Obviously, these small little stackable switches that I have wouldn't support 4,000 active VLANs running all at the same time. So you got to check your specs on that. So I'm going to go into global configuration mode. First off, I'm going to remove that VLAN that I didn't know was there. I'll do no VLAN 4. That's it. It's removed. So how do I create? You can see step number 1 at the top, create and name VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40, Nevada and Florida. I'm just going to type in VLAN 10, enter. From there, I have a whole host of options, but the only one that I'm going to care about at this point is the name. So I'm going to type in name, and I type names in all capitals because when you do a show run command or show commands, they kind of stand out to me. You don't have to do it this way. So I'm going to type in name. I'll just call it static. It's the static devices VLAN. Exit out of there. I'll do VLAN 20, name VoIP. Exit out of there. VLAN 30, name... what was 30? Client devices. And VLAN 40, name BYOD. Or I could call it public, if that would probably be a little more accurate. But nonetheless, I'll hit, let me turn off my caps lock, show VLAN. And you can see now, I've got those 4 VLANs added to my list. Now, they're not doing anything. There's no ports that are assigned to them, but the framework, if you will, has been created. So it's almost like, okay, step 1, create the buckets that these ports will go in. Step 2, put the ports in the bucket. And let's go back to the lab itself behind here. It says, let me just erase off my chicken scratch. It says, assign designated ports 2 and 3 to VLAN 10 and ports 4 and 5 to VLAN 20. Okay. I'm looking at the switch itself. So port 1 is right here at the top. It's where the yellow cable is. That's going to the router. Port 2 is below it. So we're saying port 2 and port 3 are going to be assigned to VLAN 10. Port 4 and port 5 are going to be assigned to VLAN 20. And by the way, that's how this thing rolls is we go port by port and type them in. You're like, is that tedious? No, it's our job. That's what we do. So I'm going to go in and bring my prompt back up. Okay, so let's go into global configuration mode. Here is how you assign a port to a VLAN. Interface. So I'm going to do interface fast Ethernet at 0/2 first. And hang on, just want to make sure I'm following my steps correctly. Assign designated ports 2 and 3 to VLAN 10, 4 and 5 to 20. Okay. So I'm on port 2. I'm going to type in first off switch port mode access. What's that? Well, I think the best thing I could do is show you what options you have. Switch port mode access or switch port mode trunk. Which one do you want? Are you getting the difference between the two? By default, most switches are set to dynamic, which auto detects what's connected on the other side. If it's a switch, it'll like, oh, I'll be a trunk. If it's a client device, it'll be like, oh, I'll be an access port. And that's the worst possible configuration you can have. Why? Well, because VLANs, remember, one of the main purposes is a security boundary, right? You don't want somebody to be able to jump on different VLANs. So play this out with me. You've got your switch. By default, out of the box, it's set to dynamic trunk mode, or dynamic mode, I should say. It'll negotiate an access port or trunk. So somebody's like, maybe I just bring a switch from home and plug it into my cubicle, right? And they know a little bit about Cisco, right? They plug it in their cubicle. It's like, oh, it's another switch. Let's be a trunk port. Bam. Just like that, they've got full access to add VLANs and set up their ports to be in whatever VLAN they want. They could just start adding devices right on your server. It's bad. It's bad. You don't want to do that. So best practice is to go in and set all the ports to access ports, and then flip the ones over to trunk that are specifically connected to trunk to ports that should be trunk ports, right? So I'm going to just emphasize again, do switch port mode access. Then I'm going to type in switch port access, because I'm configuring an access port now, VLAN 10. That's it. So check this out. I'll go back here and do a show VLAN, and ta-da! I've got port number 2 that's now in the static VLAN. Let's do the next one. Interface fast Ethernet 0/3, switch port mode access, and switch port. And by the way, I'm just going crazy with my tab command, because you can shortcut these commands all day. So switch port mode access, switch port access, VLAN 10, right? Bam. Let me show you a quicker way of doing it, right? Because now we're on to the VLAN 20. I'll do interface, but now I'm going to type in range, because I want to do multiple interfaces at a time. Oh, so good. Fast Ethernet 0/4 through 5. Switch port mode access. Switch port access VLAN 20. Hit the enter key, Control Z, back out. I'm going to do a show VLAN. Sure enough, I can see I've got VLAN 10, the static VLAN, and voice over IP with the correct ports assigned. Fast Ethernet 2 and 3, 4 and 5. That's it. That's all there is to assigning VLAN. So let's get back to our lab. Okay, so we've now, I want to start using checks. Here we go. Bam, done. Bam, done. Whoops, I had my camera on. Hang on, let's do that again. Right there. Bam, done. What's it doing in slow motion? All right. Step 3, turn off spanning tree protocol on all ports. Now, you may or may not know at this point what spanning tree protocol does. This is your loop prevention mechanism. When you have multiple switches connected together, you want to have spanning tree protocol running, because it'll detect if you accidentally connect them in a loop configuration, or maybe even purposely connect them in a loop configuration for redundancy, so they don't take down the network with a broadcast storm. Well, that's awesome, but spanning tree will mess up my lab, because when you plug in computers, it takes about 30 seconds for the ports to go active. And what I want to show you is, if you've read down, pause, you might want to read the rest of the lab, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug devices into the same VLAN and then move them to a different port, different VLAN, and you'll find out they can't communicate. Well, we'll find out what you're going to see. But if spanning tree is on there, I got to wait 30 seconds every time I move a port around. So that's why I'm turning it off. There's my why. So what I'm going to do is go into global configuration mode and type in interface. Let's just go crazy. Interface range fast Ethernet 0/1 through 24. And I'm going to do spanning tree port fast. And notice it's like, warning, don't do this between things connected to other switches, things like that, because it could cause a loop that actually takes down the whole network. But in our case, we are good as gold. So we've got spanning tree turned off. Now, plug 2 computers into port 2 and port 3 and assign them IP addresses from the subnet. So, port 2 and 3, right, are going to be in subnet 10.16.8.0. So I need another computer. Let me run and grab my Mac real quick. Hang on. All right, so here's what I've got. I've got my my Mac and my Apple. I got a USB-C to Ethernet adapter, so I'm going to get that jacked in there. Took down a dinosaur in the process, and short little Ethernet cable, and I'm going to get this guy connected to port number 2, which is down there. Snap, we're in. Immediately turns green because I've got spanning tree port fast turned on. So now I've got just so you can see what's going. There we go. I've got the router right here, Mac right here, my PC that is over to the left over there, right there. So I'm going to go here, open up my system preferences. Can you guys see that? I don't have screen recording software for this guy. So I'm going to go to network, and right there is my USB adapter. It's just saying, hey, I didn't get a DHCP address. So I'm going to go manual on this. It's saying, what IP address do you want? So let's jump back to right here. Right now, we've got both of these PCs plugged into port 2 and 3, which means, based on our VLAN assignments that we just did right here, they are in VLAN 10. So let's draw a little document right here. Here's we'll make this the Mac that we were just looking at, and we'll make that 10.16.8. Let's just call it 50, right? /24. And then we've got my PC that I'm actually drawing on right now. This guy will make 10.16.8.51/24. And since I'm sitting right here, why don't we bust out a little control panel action? Oop, man, gotta get my pen out of there. This is so so many tools, so difficult. Oh, okay. So network status, I'm going to bring that up. I've got my adapter settings. Then right over here is the adapter that I've got connected on the other side. So we're going to change that to 10.16.8.51. I erased it, but that's where I'm at. I'm not even going to put a default gateway as of right now. I'm just going to say 8.51. Bring up a command prompt. Right there, and let's just get a constant ping going, even though I don't have it configured yet. 10.16. And hang on, before I do that, I'll do ipconfig, make sure that we are good. There we go, 10.16.8.51. So I'm going to ping 10.16.8.50, which will be the Mac, the Apple, and I'll put a -T on there to just get a constant ping going. That way, otherwise it stops after 4 attempts, so the -T will just make it constant. So now, let me come back over here to the Apple, and we'll do, let's see, where are we? 10.16.8.50, just 50, 255.255.255.0 as the subnet mask. I'm going to hit apply and shoot back over here to my computer up top. Oh, look at that. There we go. We've got replies going on. Sweet. So I know we're kind of like staying on Windows just because that's the one I've got screen recording software on, but just for grins, why not? I'm going to open this up. Let me increase that font size a little bit, if there's any hope of you seeing that whatsoever. So I'm going to do a constant ping, and Mac does constant pings just out of the box. 10.16.8.51. Hit the enter key, and we are getting constant replies going from there. Okay, cool. So we've got ping going right here on my computer, right there that I'm looking at. We've got the Apple that's going to town. Now, let's get back here to the steps. So we've got 2 computers plugged in. They've I kind of went to the next step. Start a continual ping between the computers, ping -T. So I'm going to go check. Yep, that one's good. Now, okay, so here we go. Step 6: unplug one computer and move it to port 4. Now, hang on. Before we do that, I want to make sure everybody's on the same page with what we're doing. This is our switch, right? If I were to draw a small little picture of it. So this is what we're looking at right now. Port 1 goes to the router. Port 2 goes to my Apple computer, right? So I'll just put the big A right there. Port 3 goes to the computer that I'm talking to you on right now. We'll just call it B for the sake of it. So this is port 1, 2, 3, and port 4 right here is sitting, but it is sitting in a bubble, and that bubble happens to be called VLAN 20, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to unplug one computer. How about let's do my computer because it's easier to reach. So I'm going to hit my computer, unplug it, and just move the cable down here to port 4. So this guy's in VLAN 10, this guy's in VLAN 10. So that will effectively move my computer over to VLAN 20, right? So we'll move it to port 4. So before I do that, what do you think will happen? Think about that. Pause if you need to. What do you think will happen when I move my computer from 10 to 20? Well, the ping should stop, right? Because if that VLAN boundary is there, that's exactly what should happen. So let's get the pings back up on the screen. I'm going, walking across the room, and I'm going to move my computer from VLAN, or actually port 3 to port 4. I plug it in, bam, I've got instant light. And I don't know if you can see it right there. It's like, nope, you're dead. You're dead. Matter of fact, if I come back over here, it's like, nope, you're dead. Connection down. So is that what you expected to happen? Did you expect the things to fail? Or were you thinking it would? No, because we've now got one computer in VLAN 10, one computer in VLAN 20. It's not going to happen. Now, okay, let's go down a little bit more. Step 7, unplug the other computer and move it to port 5, which is right there, right? So I'll move my Mac from port 2 up there to port 5. And why is that a big deal? Well, port 5 should be in VLAN 20, right? So you're thinking what I'm thinking, right? If that happens, then these pings should come back up. So let's get it. I'm going to have that going. You guys can see my Apple computer as I do this. This is kind of cool. I didn't plan on this camera. Oh, wait a sec. You can't see my Apple computer. Now you can. This is kind of cool because I didn't even plan on this camera angle working out as good as it is. Okay, so I'm unplugging the Apple. Come on, there we go. And I'm going to move that over here to port 5. Plug. I'm in. Bam! Oh, look at that. Do you see it? This is my little woohoo! Come back to my computer. Woohoo! Now I can do it. Woohoo! So that essentially that proves right there that VLANs do exactly what we've been saying they should do. Not that I'm surprised. It's just fun. Anytime it's like proving a theorem in calculus. You're like, oh. Okay, that was cool, but not as fun as this. So what happens now? So the pings are succeeding. So right there, we have proved now that we've got VLANs, and we're now able to separate our network. Here's where I want to go, and I'm thinking about the future skills. So let me just make sure you're on the same page with what we've just done. We have just configured VLANs in such a way that we've got a single switch. It's divided. We can set it up to where we've got different departments, different networks. When I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking with you right now. I'm thinking, do we want to add routing to this? Like right now? Do you want to? Tell you what. Let's do that in the next video. I was planning to make a whole nother skill just on routing, but I'm thinking we're kind of on a roll, but I don't want to make this too long. So let me do this. I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to do another video in the same skill, and we're going to do routing. Cool? Let's do it. Well, at this point, we have now configured the VLANs on a single switch and tested them to ensure that they're functioning. In the next nugget, we are going to dive in and get routing set up so that we can move data between VLANs. For now, VLANs. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.